Hello. Have to see if this is on, right? Good morning. Thank you for coming to this session. We're going to talk about responsible marketing, as that was just mentioned. First, I'll just go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Tanya Plaza. I am the Deliverability and Messaging Operations Director for Dotdigital. And the talk today is going to talk, and I am going to use notes. I hope that's okay. I won't read the whole thing, I promise. But we're going to talk about how we found that it takes that consumers look for marketers to be responsible in 4 ways, right? It's how to demonstrate good citizenship, how to personalize without the cost of security or consumer trust, how to make sure that you're getting value from the return of the data that consumers are sharing with you, and then also the customer experience in the age of the now customer. And I'm really excited to introduce Linda Balfour. She is the Vice President of Marketing for Superfeet Worldwide. And Linda, would you go ahead and introduce yourself and also share with us some of the ways that Superfeet is handling marketing right now?
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, I feel really loud. I'm Linda Balfour, VP of Marketing for Superfeet Worldwide. We make, wait for it, insoles. So if you think about what goes in your shoe, we make insoles for like hiking and running, biking, hockey, any active lifestyles thing, or like just sneakers. We are founded in 1977. We're based up in Bellingham, Washington, which is the far Pacific Northwest of the state. Do you know it? Yes! So, based in Bellingham, we were founded in 1977 by a podiatrist and an inventor. And they started the company with a single mission, which is still our mission today, which is to make a positive difference in all the lives that we touch. And they set out to do that by making insoles for veterans who wanted to get back on the mountain and ski after life-changing injuries in the military. So that's been the foundation of who Superfeet is and really set us up to be having this conversation today about responsible marketing and how that translates into everything that we do.
So let's start by talking about the changes that we've seen over the last 2 years. And we don't have to mention any specifics, but everyone here knows that our world has changed quite a bit. And how have you and Superfeet handled the changes that were brought in because of what's been going on?
Yeah, so how many of you guys have been marketing for more than 3 years? Right? So you know that these last 3 years have probably been the most fun and craziest time to be a marketer, right? Like everything we knew about marketing has changed. And I would say that's true for Superfeet as well. So how we're doing as a brand, we're doing great. We are growing, continue to grow, which is fantastic. But we've been through like lifetimes of iterations of our marketing in the past 3 years. And it's been fast and it's been furious. So we went from like being a very high touch brand in store, where we were like, training people all day long on how to fit people in Superfeet products, to translating that to an online environment where people could shop and have that same easy experience online. And now we're reawakening and we're able to be here in person together again, and we're moving back to like, how do we then connect what you learned online to what's in store and continue to build that circle?
The new changes really are interesting to watch, and especially as we go into this holiday season, we've had to look at the patterns and predict changes in different ways based on consumer changes, and really I'm sort of excited for this year going into the holidays, knowing that we're going to be able to have new patterns to look at and see how it will impact the consumer community and the ways that it does. And we'll get into like specifics about that in a bit. But digging into your bio, as we were talking and as I was getting to know you, it's really been a passion of yours to make sure that you have an employer or a place of work that is having a positive impact. And so could you share a little bit more about what that means to you and how that is affected your decisions to work for Superfeet?
Yeah, so my career in like 5 sentences. I started out in the snowboarding and skateboarding industry right out of college for a publication. And I loved everything about it, except for publications were on their way out. So that was a challenge. I worked there for a little bit, and then I quit real life and moved to the ski area and got to be a ski bum for a couple of years.
So jealous.
So great. And that really connected me with the idea that like maybe you don't have to connect to work in the same way that I thought I did when I graduated from college. So I had this like an industry that I loved. I got this moment to do a thing that I loved. And then when I decided that I wanted to drop back into real life and work again, I was really looking for brands and companies or a way to continue to feel really fulfilled and be at work every single day. And so for a couple minutes, I thought like, oh, I'd really like to work for a nonprofit organization. And then I found out that there's this whole ecosystems of brands that both tap into like my personal passion for being outdoors. They do really good things by giving back. And they make really great products that people can rely on. And so once I found that trifecta of like great product, great brand, great values, it set my career in motion, and I can never go back.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to make about that trifecta that you're talking about. We all want to have a positive impact. We all want to make sure that we are affecting the world in a better way, and we don't have to work for nonprofits to do that. We can find these organizations and or be an organization that really does support these things.
Yeah, it makes marketing really fun, right? When you believe in all of it and you're giving back.
Yep. So let's dig into what we talk about when we talk about corporate responsibility or company responsibility, and how that translates into marketing strategy. And how has Superfeet been able to do that in a way that helps consumers trust you and trust that what they're doing or what you're doing and what you're doing with their data is going to be used in a way that's not going to put them at risk?
Yeah, so there's 2 things that Superfeet's been doing. And I would say it starts like from the top and then from the bottom. So from the bottom, I would say like looking at our consumers and what do our consumers need now. Right? What they needed today is different than what they needed last year, and what they're going to need next year is different than what they need today. So like, what do our consumers need now? And then on the other side of it is like, who are we as a brand at our roots? And that makes connecting to what our consumers need really easily. So at Superfeet, what that meant was actually the year before the pandemic started, so 2019, we took a step back as an organization and engaged every single person in our organization. So actually like went to all 140 plus people and talked to them individually about what it meant to them to work at Superfeet and what they thought our mission, our vision, and our values should be. So really making sure that internally, from customer care to the person that answers the phone, to the people that ship our product, to marketing and product development, that we are all 100% on the same page about what it means to be Superfeet and what it means to work for our brand.
That's so key. It's so key for employees at every level to be able to connect with what the mission and values of a company is. What are the goals? Why are they there? And what's the purpose? And I think it starts with leadership. You made that point, right? It starts from the top down. It starts with everyone coming to work wanting to do their best, but also with a leadership that's going to be pushing for that.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to empowering people, right? When they know why they're at work, then they feel empowered. So that's surfaced itself in a couple of ways. One of the ways is, so Superfeet gives 1% of all sales back to nonprofit organizations, which is a pretty common thing for companies to do now. But part of the way that we do that, and part of the way we empower our employees, is every single employee gets $1,000 every year to give to an organization that they feel like represents Superfeet's values and represents their values. So really letting people know that we trust them to make really good decisions. And one of the ways that we do that is by empowering them to give money to places that they care about.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side of that, what I expect from the marketing team is that everybody feels empowered at the same time to make decisions in their marketing journey. So are we looking at our packaging and our advertising for equity and inclusion issues? Are we offending people? When we're building our website, is it ADA accessible? Are we taking the moments that we need to run our site through the ADA filter to make sure that we've got enough contrast, that our tags are right, all that good stuff. So I think that empowerment, it goes from like brand values and what you want to do, but then really surfaces itself in the way that we do our jobs.
Absolutely. I think that great point. Empowerment is really key as well, along with the other great things that you've said. When it comes to the marketing program, how you talked a bit about your consumer reports and about how you really listen to your customers to make sure that what is being looked at is important for them. You were telling me about some of the focus groups that you're doing, and I'm going off script here, so I'm putting her on the spot, about the focus groups that you were doing this morning and that they're going on. And I was wondering if you would tell them a little bit about the reasoning behind those focus groups, and you had talked about it, how some key changes have been made based on that type of feedback in the past.
Sure, yeah. So part of what we do as a marketing team, right, is like we want to tell our stories and we want people to connect with our brand. But I think one of the most important ways to do that is to listen to our consumers' stories and their pain points, right? So part of that is combing through reviews, which you probably all do, right? And seeing not only what people love about the brand so we can amplify it, but see what is actually not working for them about the brand so that we can address it and fix it. And so the first way that surfaced is like, has anybody ever shopped for insoles before? One person's shopped for insoles before. It's a pretty confusing experience. If you go into a store, somebody will fit you for an insole and they make it really, really easy. But if you're like sorting through them on your own, there's different arch heights, there's different thicknesses, everybody calls things different things, so it's a confusing experience. So by listening to pain points and looking at our reviews, one of the first things that we did was actually put an insole finder on our website. And that insole finder actually enabled people to go through, and it doubled our conversion rates on our website. Simply by saying like, hey, we know that it's hard and we're gonna give you a tool to make it easier. Doubled conversion rates. What that also does is it gives us a really easy path to collect emails from people that we know are engaged in the brand. And we put that into our email system, and our email is our #1 driver of revenue on our website. So you get somebody in once, and then it continues to fuel the flywheel there. So that's one way. And then the other thing that we did is like, we saw that was working online, but our packaging was still from 2010, and it wasn't working the same way that our website was working. So the focus groups this morning are really looking at our packaging and retrofitting it or totally redoing it to hit those same high points on our website that are converting people really easily so that they can do that in store as well.
And I think the overarching message there is that you're looking to the consumer to drive how they're being interacted with, how they're being when they come to your website, they're the focus. When you're doing the packaging, they're the focus. When we talk about responsible marketing in this world, and how to do it the right way, it's about making sure that the information they're sharing with you, whether that be when they visit your website, whether that be any interaction they have with you, it's about using that to focus on them and not using it just to collect data. And I think we had this conversation, and I'm sure all of us have had this conversation over the last years as security has become a much higher focus. Consumers are much more aware of how we're using their data, and looking for senders and looking for marketers who hold that data to make sure it's protected. And I don't know if you have anything to add to how you use the data that you get, but I know that you use it in a very personalized manner.
Yeah, well, I think, this whole session, I could say, boils down to like responsible marketing is treating the people that you're marketing to like they're people, right? And having a really valuable, honest relationship with them. And so our data, when we process it and we keep it, like, of course, we want a huge email list, because I just shared with you, it drives so much revenue for us. But we've actually had a couple of missteps recently, and I'll share one of them with you because I think it's an easy one to do. So we were trying to build our email list, we're trying to build our social engagements, our social following, and we've found that like every time we do a contest, turns out people love free stuff, right? And so our contests are like, we run these contests, our list gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and we were just adding those people to our list because they gave us their email address, and we were sending email to them. And our email credibility score started going down. And the reason it started going down is because people wanted free stuff. They didn't want to hear from Superfeet. And so what we've done is we've started actually asking, like sending a follow-up email after a contest and saying, hey, thanks for entering the contest. Do you really want to hear from us? Because if they don't want to hear from us, it's not a valuable email address for us, right? Like I would rather be able to say the value of an email for me is $7 than it's 50 cents because we have thousands and thousands and thousands of emails of people who don't care. So that's one of the ways. And then the other way is like having really, really great relationships with different departments within the organization. So one of my most hated and most valued relationship is with our IT department and our data responsibility manager. And he always tells me all the things I can't do and all the reasons I shouldn't do it. He puts all kinds of restrictions on the way that we're building our website and our data vaults and how we do all that. But in the end, it goes back to people being empowered, treating our consumers like we have a relationship with them and like we care for them, because we do, and being smart with what we do with their data. And like sometimes it hurts a little bit as a marketer that I can't do all the fun things I want to do, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I love to hear the way that you approached the giveaways that you have. Like she said, everyone loves free stuff. I think there's nothing wrong with using a giveaway or a contest to build your list. It will help you build your list. I think what you did was smart, though, is you looked at how it was affecting your email program and you created a strategy around that. And I think it's really key for marketers to see that not every point of acquisition or collection of data should be treated the same. If you're going to do a giveaway or if you're going to do something that is giving an incentive to grow your list, you really need to have a strategy that makes sure that those recipients, in whatever form you're messaging them or communicating with them, whether that be via SMS or via email, whatever method, you really have to make sure that they are continuing to want to hear from you, because if not, they could have a detrimental effect on those that do really want to hear from you. And I think that's where marketers have this challenge of needing to cause growth, get more, show improvement to the companies or investors or whoever it is that are looking at those metrics, while at the same time continuing to build that trust, continuing to be able to deliver messages because they're sending wanted messages. And I think that's, and then that second point you made about data and being told you can't do things, and it's one of the things that my team at Dotdigital, we get asked all the time is this legal? And I really think that if you're starting from an is this legal perspective, now, I'm not a lawyer, and it is always important to make sure that you're following whatever regulations are there for the regions that you're sending to. It's important. But when it comes to should you be sending to someone or shouldn't you be sending to someone, if you're starting with the legal conversation, you're starting in the wrong place. You need to be starting in the place where, does the consumer want to hear about this? Are they expecting to hear about this? And are we using their information in a way that's not going to cause them to see our brand as untrustworthy or to cause them to not want to do business with us in the first place? I think that's really key. So, I do think that it's really important that marketers are hyper-focused on what their consumer wants, and that will give them the ability to have maximum reach.
I agree. I think, if we are human when we go to work every day and act like humans, and we treat our consumers like they are too, it's pretty clear. Like, I think the legal side of it, there are a lot of loopholes. Like, not loopholes. There's a lot of pitfalls legally, right? But they're all navigable, and they all are there for some reason. So if we bring our humanity to work and think about it in that way, and what we want people to send to us, or what we want to see on our social feeds, then I think we can be good as brands and do really good things as brands for the world.
Another perspective on it is, and there are a lot of founders and leaders in this building right now, and I think one of the things, we're all passionate about what we do. We're all passionate about our brands that we love. And one of the things that really hit me early on in my career, I was working with a couple nonprofit organizations, one of them being really wanting to provide water to areas that didn't have it. And it really dawned on me that they're so passionate about what they're doing that they're forgetting about the consumer on the other end. And of course, we all sit here and say, why would you not want to hear about me? Why would you not want to hear about my cause? Because it's so important. And we forget that it might not be important to them, even if it should be. And so if we focus on the consumer and focus on what they want, we're going to have a much better, successful marketing experience from both sides, from a revenue generating experience, from a consumer experience, and then ultimately that end interaction is going to be a positive one. Even if they eventually decide to stop hearing from you as a brand, their potential for them to continue to be a lifelong someone that comes back is much higher because there will have been respect from all sides.
Yeah, I think there's another Superfeet pitfall that I'll share with you. We've been around since 1977. We are like the number one Dr. Warren recommended insole, especially in the outdoor sports area. We went from 2 styles to more than 32. We're in 5,000 locations around the world. All that to say, when I started at Superfeet 10 years ago, we were still, or I started 6 years ago, 10 years ago, we were still in this mindset that we know better than you do. Right? So we would make this product and you would put it in your shoe and you would love it, or you'd be like, that's really hard and it doesn't feel good. And we would be like, it's good for you. Put it in your shoe. I don't care if it hurts, it's good for you. And people would be like, no, that hurts. And we're like, no, you don't know, it's good for you. So back to what you were saying, Tanya, about listening to your consumers. After, 40-something years of hearing that's hard and it hurts from 30% of people that try your product, we were like, oh, can we build that shape into something that's a little softer? Turns out we can, and they're now our number 3 and 4 styles. So I think that same idea of it's, marketing is what we send out into the world, it's how we pull people into the brand. But it also is the handoff to the brand and delivering what people want at every step of the journey, hearing what they're asking you for, and not giving them exactly what they say they need, but really thinking through what you're hearing and answering the question that they have at hand. So whether it's no, I know better than you because you should read this email and my product's awesome, or no, I know better than you, you should watch this video. People aren't gonna do it if it's not good for them and if it doesn't land with them, from the product to the way that you're marketing. Yeah.
I love listening to your passion about the product and what you do. If anyone wants to know more about the Superfeet product, it is over there in the Dotdigital booth, so go check it out. And I was wondering if anyone has any questions around responsible marketing, around data collection, or around how to contact consumers, from either Linda, who's clearly an expert, or myself. Nothing at all?
So how many of you all are founders of your own business? Awesome, congratulations.
Yeah.
How many of you have more than 20 employees? 1, very cool. So can I ask you all a question? Like, when you think about responsible marketing, is it something like at the stage of your business right now that you're actually thinking like, hey, how do I be a responsible marketer? Or is it like, how do I be a responsible brand? Or is responsibility, I mean, you're here, so it must mean something. So how many of you are like really like on the responsible marketing journey or wondering what that's going to look like for you? Awesome. And when you think about it, are you thinking about like diversity and equity? Are you thinking about how you message people and build your lists? Like, is it all of it? All of it? Yeah.
Hi, I hate public speaking, so do this quickly. In the very beginning, when you started, you mentioned, Tanya, like what happened in the past 2 years that won't be mentioned. And we have a brand where we believe that you have to mention what's going on in the world. And part of the problem with like traditional marketing is that they've always kind of ignored it and looked the other way and thinking that they could get away with that. But I think that those days are long gone. So for us, we think authenticity it's such an overused word, but you know, I don't think anyone can really hide anymore or not talk about things that are uncomfortable. It's more about how do you engage each other in a respectful way. So how did your company go about that? And have you changed kind of permanently in your approach to your responsible marketing?
I love that question.
I do too.
And I 100% agree with you. So one of the things that we did during the pandemic, like 2020, right? And the world stopped. And so we checked in with our brand values, exactly like you just said, right? And we're like, we know what's important to us. It's putting people first and making sure that we make a positive difference. And we had like everybody, like we stopped manufacturing for a few minutes, right? Because we didn't know what was gonna happen. And what we did is we actually shifted our 3D printing machines and our assembly lines to manufacture protective equipment for essential workers during COVID. And so, I mean, that's a pretty extreme example, right? It's not something that's going to happen, hopefully, ever again in our lives. But I think it is a moment where you have to acknowledge, like, what it is that you can do today with what you have, and then how you put it out into the world. And it's not like, I think the marketing follows, but that's not the reason you do it, right? Like, we probably had our best PR year ever because of that. But it was definitely like, PR was not the driver of it. The company heart and our brand values were the driver of it. And so I love what you just said about that. And then the same thing, like as we were starting to go back and stores were opening up, like how do you address that in a way that's responsible? Do you send your sales team back out into stores when it might be dangerous? When you're like fitting someone's shoes and you're right in their face, like is that the thing that you want people to be doing? So I think that same idea of like thinking all the way through it and like, would I want to be in that position? Would I want to put a consumer in that position? Does it feel like a fair and right thing to do? And we think about that all the time, right? Even to now, like we're talking about redoing our packaging and we've got this like fun doodle, I think it's a fun doodle panel down the side, but taking a look at it and being like, is there anything in there that's like appropriation that maybe is offensive and we didn't mean it to be offensive? You know, and taking those times and those checks to be like, okay, is it right? Like, is it right? And is somebody gonna like it?
Thanks for asking that.
Yeah.
All right. I think.
Any other questions? I'm gonna just drop the microphone in someone else's lap. Awesome. Cool. Tanya, thanks for the conversation.
Thank you, Linda.
Thanks for sitting with us, everyone.